you check your fucking cis privilege.
Welcome everyone to the first episode of Tumblrisms. Today we're going to be looking at Headmates. Now, before we begin, because there might be a few Tumblrettes who are watching this video, I wanted to try to accommodate your sensitivities by including a trigger warning for you. Sadly, I'm not able to do so. Many of you who know me personally understand the tragedy in my life. My father was murdered with a handgun, and because of that, triggers trigger me, and I can't put a trigger warning in this. It's kind of a catch-22, if you will, which is ironic because he was murdered with a Colt 22. I feel so unburdened now that I've said that, and that the tragedy can be put to rest. Hopefully you'll be understanding and grant me a little leeway. I'm not going to be able to explicitly warn you about all the scary things that might be coming up in the video, but I'm sure you're adult enough to handle it. You just have to grit and bear it, which I know is ableist of me to say. Some people can't grit. They have no teeth, or tongues, or fucking heads. But I think you get what I'm saying. So what exactly is a headmate? I'm sure most of you are probably curious what it is. You probably haven't heard of the term before. And that's completely reasonable. I mean, most people don't encounter crazy on a daily basis, so you're not going to be familiar with what a headmate is. Luckily for us, livingplural.tumblr.com has an FAQ section where they cover all of this. Let's take a look. Let's see what we're getting into here. Now, there are a lot of other terms associated with headmates, multiple systems, multiplicity, plurality. But we're going to try to get to the core of it, and I think this first question really gets to the gist of what it is. Question, what is a multiple system? Answer, it's a group of people sharing the same body while still being individuals with their own personalities and interests. That's interesting. That might sound like something you've heard before. There's another term for it. I believe it's called schizophrenia. Or you might even throw in a little bit of multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. But that's not what we're talking about. This is different. A living plural is going to educate us. Again, this FAQ is so helpful. Let's look at this question. Are you schizophrenic, bipolar? Answer, some people are, but that doesn't necessarily have to do with being multiple. Oh, alright. So this is something outside of schizophrenia. Interesting. What about this? Do you have multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder? Answer, there are people who have natural multiplicity, and then there are those who have MPD-DID, which is sometimes also called trauma-based multiplicity. So going off of what Living Plural is telling us, is that schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, is a medical condition completely separate from multiple systems or headmates. And again, a headmate is simply a person occupying your body with you. Now that could be anything, and I do mean anything. That could be a 400-year-old otherkin from the swamps of Louisiana, could be a 22-year-old transsexual acrobat named Stéphane from France, or it could be a binary star located 300 light years from Earth. You could be a host to anything. Anything could be your headmate. Now, this Living Plural Tumblr is pretty great. I mean, it's got a lot of information for you to sink your teeth into, aside from the FAQ. Like this section, respect please. Oh, well, look at this, multiple etiquette. Here are the do's and don'ts when dealing with a multiple system. Alright, let's take a look at a few of their do's and don'ts to try to get an idea of what a plural system, a multiple system, or a headmate is like. How do I not offend them? Because God knows, I don't want to offend them. I want to be as sensitive to everyone as I can be. Please don't call us alters or personalities. Okay. Trauma is not always the reason we are plural. There's a chance it might be. So please be respectful about the subject until you know, and even after. We can be triggered like anyone else. Plurality and multiplicity is not always a disorder. Not all headmates are dangerous. Not all systems are unstable. We've been dealing with this for longer than you've known us. Respect that. We might have identities you are completely unfamiliar with, be it in regards to gender, race, species, or something else entirely. Please respect that we know what we are, whether you've heard of it before or not. All of us are people. Now wait a minute. I don't want to offend anybody here, but didn't you just say 3 spaces above you that your identities could be anything in regards to gender, race, species, or something else entirely? So technically, not all of you are people. I don't know. I'm getting confused. Hopefully your amazing Tumblr will help me through this, so I don't offend any of you. Now, just based on this, you might be thinking, this sounds completely fucking crazy. You would be right. But to really drive that point home, let's get to know the team. There's a team that runs this Tumblr, and I think we should meet them. A few of the individual, excuse me, I am being so insensitive. A few of the systems that run this Tumblr. We've got Plurs, Plurez, Plurs, something like that. Plures. Throw it out there, figure it out yourself. We're a medium-sized natural origin system. Our most active frontrunners are Carrie, Hess, M, and Noel. We tend to discuss plurality with an emphasis on philosophical definitions of personhood and the complexities of plurality with materialistic, skeptical worldviews. We run a website about plurality, Ex Uno Plurs. We've been in the plural community for over 4 years, and we were formerly known as the Fen Group before changing our system name to Plurs in 2011. How about the House of Asgard? A rather large group containing fictives, non-humans, a subsystem, and even a factive member. We are naturally conceived with a history of trauma. We are not diagnosed with DID, however we have symptoms. We like to consider a lot of our identity to be in the gray area. Main fronter is Lucas, non-human canine, male pronouns. You can find a list of all of our members on our About Us page. All aboard the crazy train, next stop, Batshit Central Station. Now, Living Plural isn't the only Tumblr you'll find this on. In fact, Headmates are all over Tumblr. It's got its own little subculture, its own little community built up around it. People support it, and they put it forward as a great and unique lifestyle. And I mean, this is real, right? This is totally legitimate. These aren't people who are just creating something fantastical to try to make their lives a little more interesting, because they're either socially isolated or bored or don't have a lot of friends, and so they seek to try to make themselves different or unique by creating something that's truly extraordinary, and then acting as if it were real. No, that couldn't possibly be it. No, this is totally legitimate. Let's look at a few of the conversations you'll find around Tumblr regarding this. Here we go. We have one. Somebody asking, why don't you just write a novel instead of pretending there are people in your head? Seems like a reasonable question. The response, wow, this is really rude. I'm not pretending anything, you ableist asshole. My headmates are very real, and for you to act like they're not is just as bad as me saying you're made up or whatever. I get maybe you've probably never been the victim of oppression or bullying, so you don't understand how difficult it is to be part of a multiple system, but you have no idea the prejudice we experience on a day-to-day basis. Get a fucking clue, Sophia. Oh, my heart weeps, Sophia. To have this condition, to deal with a multiple system, my God, the oppression you must face on a daily basis. How horrible. Let's see. What are some other postings related to Headmates we might see? We've had the 11th Doctor and a Weeping Angel in our headspace for ages, and they've managed to stay away from each other. But now we've got Loki too, and he keeps trying to get control of the Angel, and the Angel keeps trying to take control of him. It's really wrecking up the space. What should we do? The answer posted is, well, you could try to somehow separate the Angel and Loki by force, locking them somewhere so they don't get near each other. Or you could try kicking one of them out, which isn't the best option, but if that's all you can do, it's a last resort. Followers, any advice? LC Angel. I didn't know these were physical things, tangible items that you could, interact with on a real basis. I mean, maybe they're dancing around the hypothalamus, who knows? Somewhere under the skull, hanging out by the ear canal. Having a frappuccino, getting ready to type on Tumblr. Now, let's look at another one. Since we share a body, is it possible for my headmates to feel my phantom shifts? I'm a non-human as well as a multiple, and they've been telling me they've been feeling my shifts when they've been fronting. I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but I feel like it's something that's not supposed to happen. The answer? It's not uncommon. If I'm close enough to the front when someone else is fronts, they often feet my tail. Lucas, House of Asgard. How utterly unique and special, Lucas. Oh, here's a really good one. I have Jesus as one of my headmates. This is really hard to explain to my religious friends, you don't fucking say, who claim it can't really be Jesus, and they know Jesus better than I do. Any advice? The answer they received? I don't know how religious you are, Anon, but here's my opinion. As both a Christian, I'm a Methodist, and a headmate, explain that this is God working in your life in the way that He thinks is best for you, that God speaks to you, and this is how He does it. He's God. He can speak to you how He chooses, and ask them how they could know Jesus better than you. Will Magneton. Yeah, that's great advice. I can't possibly see that backfiring. Oh, you hear the voice of God? Totally legitimate. I say run with it. Whatever He tells you to do, go and do it. I can't foresee anything bad happening from that advice. Great advice, Will. Now, I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't just show you what the reality of what these people are pretending at is really like. Oh, let's get down to brass tacks. Headmates and multiple systems and plurality is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. Now, schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder and dissociative identity disorder, those are legitimate. So when we have a community like this, it's really disgusting in two different ways. In the first, it's mocking a real thing, and it's doing it in a callous and apathetic way. These people are using it to get attention. They're taking something that's horrible and tragic and people suffer with on a daily basis, and they're treating it like it's a game. And that's just repulsive. There's really no other way to look at it. Can you think of something more disgusting than that? It's hard to fathom. I suppose I could create a fake charity for children with muscular dystrophy and just take the money and go spend it on hookers and coke. That's essentially what they're doing. They're trying to change the conversation. They create this fictionalized idea of what is really happening to certain people, and then they create an entirely new vocabulary and idea around it. So somebody who's really got schizophrenia or some other mental disorder and is fucking suffering is now looked at like, oh, it's not that big a deal. I know this guy on Tumblr who tells me it's a fucking blast. All those voices you hear in your head? That must be awesome. Are they fronting yet? How many headmates do you have? Could you imagine how fucking destructive that would be? If you had schizophrenia and some asshole on Tumblr who thinks they have headmates is having a conversation with you and tries to tell you it's a good thing, that it's not bad, that it's not horrible, that schizophrenia is yay awesome, and that you're just not coping with it right, maybe you should blog about it? Now that again, that's one reason it's fucking repulsive. The other reason, and this kind of ties back into that religious post, is there are really people who have horrible fucking conditions. And so when they somehow get onto fucking Tumblr, and they're talking to these retards who believe in headmates, and they tell somebody who really has schizophrenia and is fucking having auditory hallucinations that they are legitimately hearing the voice of God, and they should do what that voice tells them, can you fucking imagine the havoc that person is going to wreak? Oh, I don't need to take my meds today. Some guy told me it's totally Jesus. Yeah, your friends are telling you it's not Jesus because you're fucking crazy. Now, these people like to play pretend. What is it really like? I mean, what are these diseases that they like to play pretend about actually like? Well, take a look.
I know how to angle myself with the rest of the men, do you see? That's why I did that to Sue. That's why I did that to Aunt Ethel, And I wanted Fritz and all of them to know, the praying mantis and the spider and the grasshopper, to know that I think it's very important that we act badly, but I think it's very important that we act in reality of what makes the world go round. You're liable to go sliding off the curb into your death on a man that can't control himself. So really the endless wins, whether it's no or yes. So I think bulk sometimes wins. In some of the cases, the very agile cases, the bulk wins. But I think the most important thing the devil can do is to self-sacrifice and coordinate the Kmart walk so pleasure can be evened out.
Now that gentleman's name is Bob. That was from an HBO documentary about schizophrenia. You can see how disjointed his conversation is. He has to live with his parents. His life is so fucked up over his condition, even with treatment, that he can't really function on a day-to-day life. This was an academic, somebody who was in debate, who had a high intellect, who was into different kinds of sports, and it was completely cut off at the knees for him. This isn't some great thing, this isn't some grandiose thing for him. He doesn't blog about how fucking fun it is. He doesn't talk about the voices he hears as headmates. It has ruined his life. Let's take a look at another example.
I get to the point where I don't want to live anymore because the mental process of the mind takes over. When I think I'm doing good for a while, something mental takes over and it scares me.
When's the last time you felt good?
I don't remember. It's killing me. It's keeping me from having a boyfriend, keeping me from driving. It's killing me. I just believe if somebody's been suffering years ago, they should take an OD and die because psychologically they may not want to take the OD, but to get out of their misery, they might. They fight it every night. And every day he's always fighting with me. Michael's always fighting with me. Drop dead, geek, retarded bitch. Oh,
Now, what she's saying is pretty accurate. A lot of people who have these conditions, the real conditions, kill themselves. It's not a fucking game. The suicide rate is anywhere from 30 to 50% from somebody with like something like full-blown schizophrenia, and they vary obviously country to country and year to year. But it's a serious thing. I mean, she, is talking about suicidal ideation and about the voices she hears. Now, when these people talking about Headmates are writing and blogging about how fantastic this is, and they're talking about, oh, so-and-so is fronting and we're having conversations and they're fighting with each other, they make it sound like it's fun or like it's two people in a room having a conversation. The voices she hears aren't like that. All right, she's being called a bitch and a cunt and a geek and a retard. Can you just imagine that? Imagine somebody being in the same room as you and screaming at you and calling you horrible names and they won't fucking stop. Are you going to go on Tumblr and blog about how fucking fun that is? So you can see how repulsive this is. It's just disgusting. These people are horrible people. To make something like this up to become unique and special and to get attention, to take away what a real condition is and to try to twist it to your advantage, and to degrade the people who actually suffer from something that you're mocking and pretending to have? What kind of moral character do you have? How do you live your life? So if I had to choose what category Headmates falls into, I'm probably going to put it in 3. It seems like something that's developed by people who are especially lonely or socially isolated and are desperate to try to become something unique. Your typical special snowflake. Because after all, Tumblr is a blizzard. It is full of snowflakes, and you need to be a special one. And the only way to do that is to create the craziest shit you can, and to try to convince other people that it is totally legitimate.